Welcome back to the Motivating Force podcast. I am host Sway, and joining me as always we have Justin. Now, this is the first week back since we went on our camping trip, and I, for one, think that was an awesome experience that we had. It was a great time on the road. We had a little bit of rain, but other than that, it was pretty hot and sunny, right? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, it was a good time. I mean, it was good getting away, being able to relax. They had so many activities there at the trip, and I think 90% of the time we just sat there and stared at the fire. And, it was good. Sometimes you need that. And that little bit of rain helped because then one of the activities we did get to participate in was having a free sauna. So that went over really well. It was a good detox.
Yeah, that humidity was really killing us. But the whole reason we went on that camping trip, we wanted to have those like disconnections from social media, disconnect from other people, just get out with nature, have those thought-provoking conversations, and we had a lot of them. Yeah. Like you said, we sat around the fire like 90% of the time, and we were just talking, and a few brews, here and there, but it was a good time, and we had a lot of eye-opening conversations. We had a lot of deep thought conversations, and it wasn't until I got back from the trip and I, not at the hospital, but when I was working with my parents, I had another conversation with my stepdad, right? And I'm going to go back to the camping thing and why I brought that up. But it wasn't until I spoke with him that I kind of connected all these different dots. And he was telling me one of those like life advice kind of stories to take, as an older person.
The anecdotes.
Yeah, exactly. And it was more, so he was trying to explain that from the perspective of life seen as a TV show, right? We all need to have different characters, right? So we're all going to play a character part in somebody else's story, right? Because in our story, we have our set people. But then through their eyes, through their TV show, they're going to view us in different character roles. In every TV show, we need the lead, the hero, the antagonist, the comedian, the love, the best friend, and the one that got away, so on and so forth. But sometimes when you're talking to friends and family, you lack that feeling of being secure in that character role that you think you're in, right? Like if I'm with my cousins or if I'm with my friends, I think I'm the comedian, or I think I'm the annoying one, or we have our perception of what we play, even if that's not the role that we're playing.
Right. Kind of like the roles that you're cast into in different TV shows, And some you're going to play more of a serious role and some more of a minor role. I mean, even down to like the background character or something, right?
Yeah, but it's more of the thinking you're thinking you're the lead when you're not the lead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're only the lead in your story. That's it.
Well, sometimes you're not, too, because you have people that follow, that bandwagon mentality, and their god is their lead, or like,
okay, true. I see what you're
celebrity saying. Is their lead, whatever.
Yeah.
But the whole point being, like, that it's the perception that you're playing somebody that you're not, right? And the whole point of that is to come to acceptance, right? The whole point of this conversation today is accepting the role that you're playing in somebody else's story, even if if you think it's the wrong role that you should be in. It's you having to accept that you can never change that person's mind of who you are.
Okay.
So if you're the problematic one, like that fear that I told you about before, that I was always letting people down in my family, and that's why I kind of felt scared to reach out or ask for help.
Right.
That I always felt like, that they had this judgment about me, that I'm this bad kid, that I never get anything done, that kind of scenario. I'm never going to be able to change that unless, I actively work on that to show them that I'm better, if it's a negative role that they have me in.
Right.
But then there's people that are just going to be set on, no, that's who he is. He's never going to change. Okay, that's fine. Accept it. Walk away. You don't have to engage with that. But it's also less stress on yourself when you come to that acceptance. But the other part of why I brought up the camping trip was because one of the, it was almost like therapeutic conversations that we had was where I was telling you about like my past and how I had a lot of issues dealing with well, this almost exact thing, like the acceptance. I always had that subconscious fear of not being liked, not being accepted into any group. You know, nobody would like me for me because I wasn't happy with who I was, right? And I would always wear these masks. I would have like a storage unit, metaphorically, of these masks that I would wear for different people, that I would always have to go grab it, put them on. Oh, I'm this person for this person. I am this character for, you know, my dad, my mom, my friend, this random person I'm meeting on the street, you know. And I would always kind of like pull out these different masks and never have me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying this. I could see where this ties in really well with
Yeah.
our conversation we had during the camping trip, for sure.
And then there was one moment recently. I know those of you familiar with Crystalia, he was kind of like shunned from media, but then he's kind of coming back with his podcast and stuff, and he had a therapy on almost this exact thing. And when he was talking about it on his podcast, it kind of clicked with me, and I was like, wow, I can relate. Like, why didn't I see that sooner? It's like going to therapy without actually going to therapy. And hopefully I can kind of get that, or I can give that to somebody else who's watching this, that he was telling this pretty much the same story, that he would always try to be the funny one. He would always try to get people to like him as soon as he walks in the room, because he has this fear that nobody likes him, you know, strangers.
Right.
And then he recently had a kid, and the therapist was like, okay, and then you love your son, right? He's like, yeah, I love my son more than anything in the world. And he's like, okay, do you think your son loves you? He's like, yeah, he should. And then they're like, why? He's like, because I'm his dad. He's like, okay, but have you shown anything, done anything really to like earn that love from him? He like took a second. He's like, no, I don't think so. I'm just his dad. He's like, okay, so then why do you think it's impossible for other people to just like you for you? And I was like, whoosh, you know, like that self-realization that it's like, damn, like the little words, it means a lot when you think of it like that. And those are like barriers that we set up for ourselves, that we didn't want to let ourselves get close enough to like really appreciate who we are and who we could be and aspire to be and get to. And, you know, it was a big hurdle, but after talking about it and letting it out, it's like I haven't really had the need to do that for a while. I haven't had the need to put on these different masks. Haven't had the need to you know, pretend like I'm somebody that I'm not.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you know, it takes a lot of extra energy to go around and try to appease everybody in different ways. And, I mean, there is a level in the social structure where you are going to make a little bit of compromise and a little bit of sacrifice in the way you act, right? Like the way you act with, say, like when you're a teenager, right? The way you act with your friends is not going to be the way you act with your parents.
Right.
And there's a point of that that's completely natural and normal, because you should have that higher reverence and respect when you're around your parents. You should act a little more, you know, proper.
Yeah,
right?
like you're falling in line kind of thing.
Yeah. And so there is a point of that does make sense. But I see where you're saying where that can go a little bit too far, where your appeasement is you're trying to fill these different roles in people's stories where you think that you're going to be needed. When the reality is they have roles open for every position, and you just need to go in there and present yourself as you and let them place you wherever you fit inside of their story and be okay with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would waste a lot of energy, and upon doing that, I would, you know, have days that I would go without talking to people. Like I would just lock myself in my house, my room. I wouldn't talk, text, call, ASL. I wouldn't sign anybody. Like I just wouldn't want to communicate because I just felt so like empty with like I have no more energy in my reserves. I was just like, let me just lay down. I don't want to do anything. So that killed motivation to do all sorts of things, all because I was faking this persona that I thought I would have to be for everybody. Like I thought that was normal, that everybody was doing this, and I just had a little bit less energy than most people. But then, like, we were talking over the campfire, and I was like, I haven't had those days in a while. You know, like, it's been years. since I've had days that I'm just like, let me just lock myself in the room.
Right.
And
kind of sit there and clean up all the masks, right? Take
yeah,
inventory,
polish
relax.
them all. Yeah, make sure there's no cracks or anything.
Yeah.
But it was more of like I'm finding that it's a lot more, like I'm finding that I'm happier getting true acceptance as me than acceptance for the mask that somebody liked. Because the same with when you tell somebody a lie that you have to follow it up with 2 lies or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to keep remembering which mask it was that I pulled for that person. And then when you have interactions with like 20 people a day, you're going to have to try to remember which mask goes for which, and then the way you're interacting with each person. And it's a downward spiral, and it's terrible. But
I mean, if you really think about it, right, and say you have all those different masks you wear for people, and I guess this does kind of go with where it does make sense to do that, like the example there with your friends versus your parents, you know. Yeah. You're going to see some of those masks that you don't like to wear.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and the point is, if you have to put on a mask you don't like, if you have to be somebody that you don't want to be in order to hang out with certain people, then those people aren't right for you in the first place. Mm-hmm. Those aren't people that you like naturally. So why can't you just let go of that, you know, and go around and be around the people that will bring you up, people that you do like, people that like you, you know, and that just comes from having that, just having that open personality about yourself.
Yeah, that it's like, it's harder for people that have been doing this subconsciously, you know, that they've gotten into this habit of creating those masks and being in the habit of pulling them out all the time, as in my case, because I can't really like I can't really pick out the point in my life where that started. I can see different factors that I could assume went into play, but for the most part it was like realizing this years later that was a bad habit that I had, and it was very, very detrimental one, let's say, for relationships and friendships and stuff. But it's one of those like hindsight things you start to realize where you can change it. So how do you think we can tell people that aren't aware of it?
Well, I mean, you can see when it clashes, right? Because you're going to have your group of friends, different groups of friends, and say you get 2 of those different people to come and hang out with you at the same time. And you require 2 completely different personas to do that.
Yeah.
How do you go about that? How do you play that? Right? Because in one end, you're going to be appeasing one person. The other person's going to be like, what are you talking about? You don't like those things. You don't care about those things. You know, who are you? And vice versa. So I think a point to realize is if you could see where you can't take everybody in your life that's actively in your life and put them in the same room and have a conversation with you. If you can't do that, then you're being fake with at least one person, right? Yeah. You're being somebody who you're not, somebody who you don't want to be.
Yeah. And then for the people that are struggling with the fact that other people placed them in that role that they shouldn't be in, or that they think that they shouldn't be in, you just really have to accept it, right? Bottom line, you can't change their opinion of you. If you're going to be that fake person for the rest of their life, that's fine, man. Those were the actions you took to get the role, and you were placed in it, and now, hey, you got to accept it, move on. Even if you're working past all these mistakes as I am, I'm sure there's plenty of people that think that I'm that same person and that I'm in that role. That's fine. You know, I made those mistakes, now let's move on. But anyway, the disclaimer that I also wanted to throw out there was that it was kind of like the same thing that you mentioned, that it is okay sometimes for you to wear these masks. You know, I'm not shunning the whole concept of putting on these different personas or whatever. Like, I'm sure, like, everybody's gone through it. Like, when you're going to an interview, like, there's countless times that I've seen people walk in and they're like, you know, straight out of Trump Tower. They're like dressed for days, you know, and then 2 weeks later after they get the job, they're like slobs. they have like eyelashes falling out. They have makeup running up the side of their face. Like, guy, what are you doing? Like, looking like a fool. But it's all because they put that initial mask on of I'm a professional. But then there's other ways to go about that. And when you go to work, if you're going to put that mask on, keep that mask on every time you go to work. Don't let it slip, because then now it's going to be such a drastic change.
Yeah. And that's funny too, because, you know, we do a lot of hiring at our shop. Mechanics are unfortunately a medium turnover rate. So we do go through new employees from time to time. And it is funny seeing the people who are going to stick around and people who aren't, you know, because people can see past the mask to an extent, and it's more than you think. The show you're putting on for other people is enough for you to believe it, and a lot of times it's not enough for others to believe it, especially when you're talking about employers, people older than you, people that have been around. They know what that looks like, and especially when they're looking for it, like during a job interview. And one of the things like we look for when we hire mechanics isn't even based off of really their skill level. That's a very brief conversation we have. Like, okay, what are your strong points? What are your weak points? Where are you at in the mechanics field, right? The majority of the conversation is about personality.
Yeah.
How do you respond to these situations? Are you honest? Are you upright? Are you going to do the right thing for the customer? Because if not, then I don't care if you're the best damn mechanic in the world. Because if you're willing to screw over my customer whenever you make a mistake, I don't need you. You know? And a lot of shops are like that too, where when you get into that interview process and you're just honest about who you are, where you're at, where you're trying to go with it, that gives you a lot more credibility than pretending to be the best mechanic, pretending to have this impeccable personality, you know? And just be honest to admit your flaws and your struggles, because what that does show is your ability to be honest. And that takes you a lot further than experience and knowledge does.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's also 100% clear that when you're sitting there going, oh, that hypothetical will never happen because I'm never going to make a mistake. I've done this for 20 years. You know, I'm a professional. I've never made a mistake like that. And then it's like, okay, guy, you can walk away. We don't care.
Exactly. Yeah. So there is a point where it is too much. And like you're saying, you know, of course the guy is going to come in and he's going to be proper and attentive and, you know, a little better dressed than he will be when he's there working on cars. But that's that point of kind of, because it's not even putting on the fake persona. I guess it's just heightening the qualities that you have that need to be presented first.
Okay, so then another example would be, let's say you're working customer service, right? And then you have a customer yelling at you. You can't really do anything or fight back, you know? If it's a Karen yelling at you with a cell phone in your face, you can't really do anything, or else you'll lose your job possibly your entire life if it's being viral.
That's why I like being my own boss. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, but then, you know, you have to put on that customer's always right mask. I mean, how can you argue that one? Everybody's done that. Because that's not heightening anything. That's just like, you know, I really have to pretend like I'm somebody else so then I can have that, like, well, I can ease the situation better.
The way I can counter argue that with you is you are still heightening qualities. The qualities you're heightening are patience and resilience, and your ability to maintain calm under pressure. Okay. Which is something a lot of people lack.
Yeah,
it's very hard to do, because I'm trying to think of the times where I've ran into those types of issues at my shop, because I have. Yeah. Definitely, right? Mechanics do make mistakes. Wow, right? Who would have guessed? And when I'm confronted with an angry customer like that, remaining calm under pressure is the most important part, right? But it's more of I try just to investigate the situation, because the first thing I need to do is make sure, is this customer telling me the truth?
Yeah.
Right? And are they exaggerating? Are they lying? What are they trying to get from me? Right? Because if they're telling the truth and my guy messed up, there's an easy solution to that. It's called, I'm going to fix it. We're going to warranty the part, whatever it is, I'm going to fix it because that's my reputation. Now, where that goes further is because I've had it where like our shop's Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And people are like, well, it's broken and it's your fault and you need to fix it. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to fix it. Bring it in on Monday. We'll get it done. Because say it's like Friday at 4:50, right?
Yeah.
And like, no, you need to come in tomorrow and fix it. Well, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
Right? But it's something that takes a while to learn. Because even though you're in the wrong, you still have that ability to make that compromise because it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, but going back, being on topic with that part of the conversation there is, I'm not trying to be fake about any of it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to really, to an extent, I do cover for my guys. Obviously, if they make a negligent mistake, I'm not going to try to make it look like, oh, yeah, you're right. My guy was on his cell phone while he was working on your car.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do anything like that. But it's like, hey, I'm sure it was an honest mistake. We'll get through it. But it's just keeping that genuine personality and being honest with people. And that actually helps calm a lot of people down, too, especially when you're talking about the customer's always right.
Yeah.
And I know Karens can be hard to please. And but because some of those situations, I just tell people to get out of my shop. So,
I mean, but that kind of like wraps everything up because you're hitting these points. And like I said, sometimes it is okay to wear those masks based on certain scenarios and situations. But when the sole purpose is that malicious intent or like in my case, the desperation of being liked or wanted, that's when it's a big no-no, right? It's when it's that, negative connotation. It's the malicious intent. You're trying to sneak your way into something. You're trying to harm somebody. You're, a serial killer and you're trying to pretend like you're,
you're this real likable guy named Ted Bundy or something, right?
Yeah. But you got to accept the role you've been placed in and don't try to oppose it. Even if it's the wrong role that you believe that you're in. Accept the possibility that people can like you for you, even if you don't think much of yourself, because that's the whole purpose of why these people are listening to the podcast, right? Hopefully that's why they're here. They're trying to grow, to become successful and keep that motivation flowing to achieve each and every one of your goals. Because also people are attracted to that, right? When you're searching for growth, when you're searching to better the true form of yourself, people are going to be attracted to that no matter what. If it's relationship, if it's friends, if it's a good group of people to be around, like-minded people are going to try to group together. So it's better to have a like-minded group of people that are positive than the people out to harm each other and not get anywhere in life.
I mean, I like it a lot because there is a balancing act there to play with that. And kind of understanding where you should be at is really where that boils down to. And like you're saying, with the extreme side of it, not everybody's going to like you, and that's something that people can't accept. But they need to start accepting that, because at the same time, if people aren't going to like you, then look inside of yourself and see why that is. Do they not like you because you're trying to go to sleep at 9 o'clock instead of being out partying and drinking so that way you can do something with your life? Do they not like you because you're trying to spend more time with your family, your wife, your kids, instead of sitting around playing Call of Duty all day? And then, really think about those things and be like, okay, well, they don't like me because of that. Well, maybe then I don't need them, because obviously they're not going to help you. They're just trying to get you to be, the battle team buddy on Call of Duty. They're trying to get you to be the wingman at the bar. And what good does that serve you? So really look at that when you're trying to decide why these people don't like you, and then why you need them to like you. Because when those clash, and when you're trying to be yourself and those things clash, there is a reason for that. And that's because that person does not align with who you really are. And that's okay. Not everybody's going to be your friend. There's 7 billion people in the world. It's not going to happen. That's okay. But here at The Motivating Force, me and Josue will always be your friend. And the easiest way to get into contact with us and communicate with us is through our social medias. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Those links are going to be down below for you guys. We'd love to hear from you guys and help you guys grow. We're always down for that. Any questions, comments, concerns, anything you want us to talk about here on the show, we're willing to do that. Just let us know.
Again, remember, we are on Anchor FM. Our Anchor link is down in the description. We're posting on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that for the audio-only version of the episodes. And I believe we're like a week behind compared to the YouTube.
Yeah.
Comes out 1 week before. So yeah, remember to check that out. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you guys for everything. And until next time,
go on and get.